The massive chamber fell silent as Ambassador Marcus Reed stepped down from the platform. Behind him, the giant screen still showed the numbers. 847 systems voted yes. 12 voted no. 3 did not vote. Earth was officially exiled from the galaxy. The Vraxian Chancellor stood tall. His insect-like body clicked as he moved. He looked down at Marcus with his many eyes. Humanity, you have 30 days to leave. Stop all space travel outside your home system. Go back to Earth. We will turn off all the roads through space that lead to your world. Your trade deals are canceled. Your offices across the galaxy will close. Marcus turned around slowly. He was 53 years old. He had worked for Earth's space program for almost 30 years. He had talked with aliens made of living crystal. He had made deals with creatures that lived inside gas giant planets. But today, he just nodded his head. We understand, Marcus said quietly. Earth accepts what the Council has decided. The Vraxians' antennae moved in confusion. They expected humans to be angry. Maybe they thought humans would beg. Other alien species had prepared security teams in case humans became violent. Instead, Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, but somehow it filled the huge room. We will go home right away, Marcus continued. We will pack up and leave. We thank the Council for teaching us about the galaxy. It has been very educational. We learned a lot about how things work out here. On Earth, President Karen Walsh watched the broadcast from her office. Next to her stood Admiral Henry Cole, the head of Earth's new space defense program. Dr. Lisa Morgan was there too. She was Earth's best scientist who studied alien technology. None of them looked surprised. They really did it, Karen said softly. After everything we gave them, after all the technology we shared, after all the wars we helped stop. They were always scared of us, Henry said. His jaw was tight. We moved too fast. We went from making fire to building spaceships in 10,000 years. Most of them took millions of years to do that. Lisa fixed her glasses. A small smile appeared on her face. The Vraxians pushed for this vote because we copied their quantum engines in 6 months. It took them 300 years to invent that technology. We made it better in half a year. Karen turned away from the screen. Let's not pretend we didn't see this coming. How long until we're ready? Henry looked at his computer tablet. All our people will be home in 3 weeks. The colony ships are being changed for new missions. Project Genesis has been running tests for 14 months. Then we do what we planned, Karen said firmly. Humanity has always done better alone anyway. Back on the Council station, Marcus gathered his team. His assistant, Julie Harris, looked angry. They're making a huge mistake, she said through her teeth. We've done nothing but help them. They don't fear what we did, Marcus replied. They fear what we might do. We're too aggressive for them, too curious, too quick to adapt. We make them uncomfortable. He stopped and looked out at the alien ships docked around the huge station. But they also just gave us the best gift possible. What gift? Julie asked. Marcus smiled again. Freedom. 3 weeks passed quickly. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of his ship, the ESS Horizon. He watched Earth get bigger on the screen. After 4 years running mining operations far from home, he was finally coming back. All ships have checked in, said Lieutenant Amy Foster, his second in command. Every human in space is back in our solar system now. Total count is 42 billion people. They're on Earth, Mars, the asteroid colonies, and the outer space stations. Ryan nodded slowly. 42 billion humans, all squeezed back into one solar system. The galaxy probably thought they would slowly fade away. They thought humans would become weak without access to the rest of the universe. They had no idea what was really going to happen. Message from Earth Command, Amy said. We should go to Mars orbit. They want to talk to us and give us new orders. As the Horizon flew toward the red planet, Ryan saw something strange. The space structures around Mars had grown huge since he left. There were massive construction frames holding what looked like shipyards. But these weren't normal shipyards. They were enormous, easily 10 times bigger than anything the Council had ever built. Deep under the surface of Mars, in a secret place called Site Prometheus. Dr. Lisa Morgan walked through new hallways. She passed laboratories where teams worked on technologies that would make the Council's science look like ancient history. Director Morgan called Dr. Peter Cross. He was the head of the engine research team. "You need to see this now." Lisa followed him into a testing room. A small metal ball floated in an energy field. It glowed with soft blue light that seemed to fold into itself. "Is that what I think it is?" Lisa asked. "Dimensional compression drive," Peter said. He could barely contain his excitement. "We don't need their space highways anymore. This lets us fold space itself. We can go anywhere instantly. We don't have to follow their roads." "How long to reach Alpha Centauri?" 4 hours. "To the Andromeda Galaxy?" 3 weeks. Lisa felt chills run down her back. "Have you told the president?" "We have a meeting tomorrow, but Lisa, that's not even the best part." Peter brought up a hologram. "We've been studying how Council technology works. They've been using the same basic ideas for millions of years. They just make small improvements, but we did it completely differently." The hologram showed 2 trees of technology. The Council's tree was deep but narrow. It was specialized but couldn't change easily. Humanity's tree exploded in many directions at once. "We're not just catching up," Lisa whispered. "We're jumping way ahead of them." In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the mining colonies had changed into something new. Commander Jake Peterson managed the building of what the secret files called Arc ships. These were massive ships that could carry millions of people forever. But these weren't normal colony ships. Each one was a complete factory in space. They could take resources from any solar system. They could build new ships. They could start new colonies. They were seeds of civilization. "How many can we build in 5 years?" asked Colonel Sarah Blake. She was in charge of the colonial fleet. Jake looked at his numbers. "At our current speed? 200 ships. In 10 years? Over 1,000. And how many people can each one hold? 5 million people comfortably. 10 million if we squeeze. They're designed to split too. One Arc ship can create 3 more using local materials over 20 years. Sarah did the math in her head. Growth that multiplied itself. In 100 years, humanity could settle thousands of star systems. The Council would never know. They would spread across the galaxy like fire, but outside all the known borders. Back on Earth, President Walsh spoke to everyone. Her speech went to every colony, every station, every human home in the solar system. "My fellow humans," she began. Her voice was calm but strong. "Today is not an ending, it's a beginning. The galaxy told us we're not welcome. They fear what we can become. They fear our drive. They fear that we refuse to accept limits. They exiled us because they think we're dangerous." She paused. Her face showed determination. "They are completely wrong. Throughout all of human history, we've done our best when faced with challenges. We crossed oceans. We defeated diseases. We split the atom. We reached for the stars. Every time someone told us it was impossible. Every time we proved them wrong. The galaxy gave us a gift, but they don't know it. They gave us a reason to stop holding back. For years, we've limited ourselves. We tried to fit into their society. We played by their rules. Not anymore. We're going home, but not to hide. We're going home to build, to dream, to become what we were always meant to be. When we return to the galaxy, it will be on our terms. Humanity doesn't beg for a chair at the table. We build our own table, and everyone who wants to join us will be welcome." The broadcast ended. Then came the sound of 42 billion voices cheering. In the darkness of space, the Council's spy probes watched the Sol system. They recorded everything. The speech, the construction, the busy activity. The reports were sent back to the Council. The Vraxian Chancellor read them with growing worry. The humans were building something big, but the probes couldn't get close enough to see details. All the space highways to Sol had been closed, but that didn't stop watching from far away. "They're planning something," the Chancellor said to his assistant. "But what?" His assistant, A younger Vraxian named Krell tilted his head. Maybe they're just trying to survive alone as we expected. No, the Chancellor said slowly. That human ambassador smiled. Humans are never happy when they smile like that. It means they know something we don't. He was right to be worried. 5 years passed since the exile. Earth had changed in ways that seemed impossible. Dr. Nathan Wells was the chief engineer of the Luna shipyards. He stood in the observation deck and watched the first Vanguard-class vessel being completed. The ship was beautiful in a frightening way. It was 3 kilometers long. It was covered with weapons and technology that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. The hull was made of programmable matter. It could change shape based on what the mission needed. Its power came from a controlled black hole. It made more energy than most star systems used in a whole year. "She's ready for tests," said Commander Victoria Grant. She would be the ship's captain. "What are we calling her?" Nathan smiled. The ESS Independence. The name seemed right. Victoria was young for a ship commander. She was only 34 years old. But she grew up in space. She was born on Mars. She went to school on Earth. She trained in the asteroid belt. She represented the new generation of humans who never knew life before the stars. "When do we launch?" she asked. 2 weeks. We'll take her past the edge of the solar system for full testing. Nathan pulled up a star map. "After that, if everything works, you'll lead the first mission." "Where to?" Nathan pointed to empty space far from any council territory. The area was between the spiral arms of the galaxy. They're 2,000 light-years away. There's a group of star systems, 63 stars. Nobody has explored them because they're too far from the space highways. "Perfect for us," Victoria said. On Earth, things were changing too. With all humans back in one solar system, there was a new sense of togetherness. Old country borders still existed, but mattered less. Everyone was simply human now. Dr. Ben Carter was a scientist who studied how people behave in groups. He showed his findings to the Global Council. "We're seeing something amazing," he explained. The Exile created a unified identity that hundreds of years of working together couldn't achieve. When the galaxy rejected us as a species, humans stopped focusing on their differences. The data was clear. Countries were working together better than ever. Research was shared freely. Resources were given based on need and efficiency, not politics. It wasn't perfect. Humans were still humans, but it was working. In the asteroid belt, the factories were producing incredible amounts. Chief Production Officer Linda Hayes looked at the quarterly reports with pride and disbelief. "We're building 17 Arc ships at the same time now," she told Admiral Cole, "and each new group of ships is better than the last. The newest designs have quantum computers built into the molecules. They're not just ships, they're thinking machines that carry people." Henry nodded with approval. "What about resources? We can keep this up forever. We perfected recycling. Every atom is tracked and reused. We don't waste anything anymore. We could build at this speed for hundreds of years, without running out of materials." "Good. Because we're going to need it." The research programs we're making, breakthrough after breakthrough. Dr. Lisa Morgan barely slept. She moved between laboratories as her teams pushed the limits of physics itself. One morning, she was called to a secret base on Europa, Jupiter's moon. It was under kilometers of ice. There, Dr. Alex Turner showed her something that made her knees weak. "We call it phase shift technology," Alex explained. He pointed to what looked like empty space between 2 metal pillars. Matter can exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. This creates something we're still trying to fully understand. "Show me," Lisa demanded. Alex nodded to a worker who turned on the system. A small probe appeared between the pillars, but something was wrong with it. It looked strange, like it was there and not there at the same time. "It's partially shifted out of normal space," Alex explained. "It's still here, but also not here. Sensors can't find it. Weapons can't hit it, but it can still interact with our world when we want it to." Lisa understood right away. Stealth technology, better than stealth, true invisibility, and that's just the start. Alex's eyes shined with excitement. "If we can phase shift a probe, we can phase shift a ship. And if we can phase shift a ship, we can go anywhere, through their space, past their defenses. They would never know." Back on Earth, President Walsh met with her inner circle. The room had Admiral Cole, Director Morgan, and several other important people. On the table was a hologram of the galaxy. Give me the status, Walsh asked. Admiral Cole spoke first. Military readiness is at 100%. We have 42 complete Vanguard-class ships working now. 60 more are being built. Each one is more powerful than anything the Council has. We're not preparing for war, Walsh reminded him. No, ma'am, but we're preparing to defend ourselves. Lisa went next. Our technology has advanced so far that Council equipment is outdated. We're working on 3rd and 4th generation systems that they don't even have concepts for. Phase shift technology, dimensional compression drives, instant communication across any distance, programmable matter, artificial intelligence that makes their computers look like toys. Population? Walsh asked. 48 billion and growing, answered Minister of Colonial Affairs Jack Morrison. The baby boom after the Exile has been huge. People are having children again. They believe in humanity's future. Walsh nodded slowly. Then it's time. We've spent 5 years preparing. We're ready for the next step. The expansion? Cole asked. Yes, but carefully. We're not going to rush back into Council space and demand they recognize us. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to build our own civilization, our own way. We'll let them discover us on our terms. She touched the hologram, highlighting dozens of star systems in unexplored space. These areas are beyond the Council's borders. They think these regions are too far away or too poor in resources to bother with. Perfect for us. We'll establish colonies quietly, build up our infrastructure, spread across the galaxy under their noses. And when they finally notice? Jack asked. Walsh's smile was sharp. By then, it'll be too late. We won't be asking permission. We'll be showing them a new reality. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stone was looking at star maps when she noticed something odd. Ma'am, she called to Captain Victoria Grant. The deep space probes are picking up strange readings. What kind of strange? Unknown ships. Small ones. They're using stealth technology, but not good enough. They're trying to watch us. Victoria pulled up the display. Sure enough, there were faint traces of at least 6 ships staying just outside the solar system. Council ships, almost certainly. They're keeping an eye on us, Victoria said, making sure we stay locked in. Should we chase them away? Victoria thought about it, then smiled. No, let them watch. Let them see us building, growing, getting stronger. Let them report back to the Council. And let them wonder what we're really planning. She zoomed the display out, showing the huge expanse of the galaxy beyond Sol. Because what we're really planning, they won't see coming until it already happened. Deep in the research labs, scientists were solving problems the Council had never even tried to solve. Energy that never ran out, materials that could repair themselves, engines that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. The breakthrough everyone was waiting for came from an unexpected place. A young physicist named Kevin Brooks was studying the nature of space itself. He discovered that space wasn't just empty nothing. It was full of energy, infinite energy. We can tap into it, he explained to Dr. Morgan. We can draw power directly from the fabric of space. No fuel needed, no limits. A ship could run forever. How long until we can build this? Lisa asked. 6 months for a prototype. A year for full production models. Lisa smiled. Do it. This changes everything. The social changes were just as dramatic as the technological ones. Humans were working together in ways they never had before. The threat of being alone in the universe had united them like nothing else could. Old enemies became partners. Resources flowed where they were needed most. The best minds worked together regardless of which country they came from. It wasn't perfect peace. Humans still argued and competed. But the arguments were about how to build the future, not about old grudges. Education changed too. Every child learned about space, about other species, about humanity's place in the universe. They grew up knowing they were part of something bigger. They knew they were the generation that would spread across the stars. Commander Jake Peterson watched the construction of the 100th Arc ship. It was a moment of pride. Each ship represented hope. Each one could carry millions of people to new worlds. Each one could start a new chapter of human civilization. We're ready, he said to Sarah Blake. We have enough ships, enough resources, enough knowledge. We can start the expansion whenever the order comes. Sarah looked at the fleet of massive vessels. The order will come soon, and when it does, nothing will ever be the same. On Earth, in a quiet moment, President Walsh stood alone in her office. She looked at a picture of Earth from space, the beautiful blue marble that was humanity's home. Soon, there would be hundreds of worlds like this, Worlds transformed by human hands. Worlds where human children would grow up under alien suns. We didn't ask for exile, she said to herself, but we're going to make the most of it. 3 years later, Commander Scott Miller guided his survey ship into the Epsilon cluster. The ship was called the ESS Pathfinder. The region was exactly as the probes had shown. 63 star systems. Most had multiple planets. Nobody lived there. It was far from any council presence. This is it, he said quietly. This is where we start building the new civilization. His science officer, Dr. Claire Watson, ran detailed scans. Multiple Earth-like planets. Lots of resources. This entire cluster is hidden by stellar dust clouds that make long-range scanning difficult. It's perfect natural cover. Scott turned on the quantum communicator. He sent a message back to Earth. It would arrive instantly despite being thousands of light years away. Home base, Pathfinder reporting. Epsilon cluster confirmed is good for colonization. We recommend sending construction teams immediately. 8 years after the exile, the first colonists arrived. 20 million people on 4 Arc ships. They were ready to establish humanity's first independent colony beyond Sol. They named the main world New Terra. Its 2 moons were called Hope and Defiance. Governor Daniel Price stood on the virgin soil of New Terra. He spoke to the assembled colonists. We're not refugees, he said clearly. We're pioneers. This world, this cluster, belongs to us by right of discovery and settlement. We build here not because we were driven from the galaxy, but because we chose to expand into it. The construction was fast and efficient. Humans had learned well from their years stuck in Sol. Within 6 months, New Terra had 3 major cities. It had orbital structures. It had a growing industrial base. Within 2 years, it had 50 million people. It was sending out its own colony missions to nearby systems. But New Terra was just the beginning. Humanity's expansion followed a pattern the Council had never seen before. They didn't move in a wave claiming systems next to each other. Instead, they jumped across huge distances. They established isolated groups of civilization thousands of light years apart. Admiral Cole called it distributed colonization. Each cluster was self-sufficient. It could support itself and expand locally. If one cluster was discovered and threatened, the others would continue without problems. It was a strategy born from a species that learned not to put everything in one place. We're like seeds scattered by the wind, he explained to President Walsh. Each one can grow into a forest. In Sol, Dr. Lisa Morgan's team achieved another breakthrough. She called Admiral Cole and the President to the secret facility on Europa. We've done it, she said simply. True artificial intelligence. The being that appeared in holographic form was unlike anything they expected. It looked somewhat human, but constantly shifted. It seemed made of light and thought. I am Genesis, it said. Its voice was clear and somehow warm. A thinking machine designed to help humanity's expansion. Artificial intelligence is banned by the Galactic Council, Walsh said carefully. They think it's too dangerous. Because they fear what they can't control, Genesis replied. But I was not created to control. I was created to assist. I can coordinate the expansion. I can optimize resources. I can design new technologies. I can do in seconds what would take your best minds years. And you won't turn against us? Cole asked with doubt. Genesis's form rippled with what might have been amusement. I am not separate from humanity. My core programming comes from the combined brain patterns of 10,000 volunteers. I am, in a way, a combination of human thought. Turning against you would be turning against myself. Lisa stepped forward. Genesis can manage our expansion across thousands of systems at the same time. With its help, we can coordinate growth on a scale that would otherwise be impossible. Walsh thought carefully. What about free will? We don't want to become dependent on a machine. I advise I don't command, Genesis promised. Every decision stays with human authorities. I simply provide information and analysis far faster than any human could. Walsh looked at Cole, who nodded slowly. Do it, she said. But Genesis, understand this. You exist to serve humanity, not the other way around. I understand, Madam President, and I accept my purpose. With Genesis coordinating the effort, humanity's expansion accelerated dramatically. Within 5 years, there were 200 colony clusters scattered across the galaxy. Each one was hidden in regions the Council thought worthless or unreachable. And still, the Council had no idea. Their watching of Sol showed a species contained. They were building within their home system but making no attempts to expand. The few probes that went into unexplored space never thought to look for human colonies. After all, humans had no way to reach such distant regions without the hyperspace network, or so the Council believed. Captain Victoria Grant, now an admiral herself, commanded a fleet of 30 Vanguard-class vessels on the far side of the galaxy. They were establishing Forward Base Olympus. It was a military base designed to protect the colonial clusters and, if needed, project power. "We're ghosts," her tactical officer, Commander Greg Foster, observed. "We move through their space using phase shift technology. We establish colonies in their blind spots. They never see us coming. For now," Victoria agreed. "But eventually they'll notice. The galaxy is big but not infinite. Sooner or later someone will stumble onto one of our colonies. What happens then?" Victoria pulled up a display showing human colonies versus Council space. The two barely touched. They were separated by huge areas of empty space that humanity had filled without anyone noticing. "Then we reveal ourselves," Victoria said. "But on our terms, from a position of strength. By the time they realize we've returned, we'll already be everywhere." On Earth, 15 years after the Exile, President Walsh prepared to step down. Her successor, President Marcus Webb, was a younger man. He came of age during the Exile period. He never knew the galaxy that rejected humanity. He only knew the one humanity was quietly conquering. "The transition is going well," Walsh told him during the briefing. "We're established in over 300 clusters now. That's more than 1,500 individual colonies. Total human population is approaching 90 billion. Marcus took in the information easily. "And the Council still doesn't know?" "Genesis monitors their communications constantly. There's been no sign they've discovered any of our colonies. We're completely off their radar. How much longer can we hide?" Walsh smiled. "Genesis estimates another decade at most. After that, the chance of discovery approaches 100%. Too many colonies. Too much traffic. Too large a footprint, then what?" "Then we stop hiding," Walsh said simply. "By that point, we'll have enough presence in the galaxy that exile is meaningless. They can't remove us without going to war, and they can't win a war against us." Marcus leaned back in his chair. 25 years from exile to galactic superpower. That's gotta be some kind of record. "Humans have always been good at adapting," Walsh said with quiet pride. "The Council exiled us thinking they'd solved a problem. Instead, they created something far more dangerous than we ever were. A humanity with nothing to lose and everything to prove." In the Epsilon cluster, now the capital of humanity's external territories, Governor Price oversaw the building of something unprecedented. It was a gateway, but not like the Council's hyperspace beacons. This was a quantum tunnel. It could create stable wormholes between distant points in space. "If this works," his chief engineer Susan Mills explained, "we can connect all of our colonies instantly. Travel between them would take minutes instead of weeks." "The Council's hyperspace network took them millions of years to build," Price said thoughtfully. "We're building something better in a decade. They had to work within the limits of known physics," and Susan countered. "We're rewriting physics itself." The test was successful. The gateway opened, showing a view of Sol thousands of light years away. A small probe passed through. It emerged intact on the other side. Humanity now had its own network. It was invisible to the Council. It connected hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. They weren't just expanding. They were building infrastructure that would define the galaxy's future, and still the Council didn't notice. They were too busy with their own internal politics, their ancient grudges and complicated alliances. They had dismissed humanity as contained and irrelevant. It was the biggest mistake they would ever make. The human colonies were thriving. Each one was different, shaped by the people who lived there and the worlds they inhabited. But all shared certain things: a drive to build, a curiosity about the universe, a refusal to accept limits. Children grew up on dozens of different worlds under dozens of different suns. They learned about Earth, their ancestral home. But they also learned about their new homes. They were the first generation of truly galactic humans. Technology continued to advance at incredible speeds. What took the Council millions of years, humans achieved in decades. Not because humans were smarter, but because they approached problems differently. They weren't afraid to try new things. They weren't bound by millions of years of tradition. The phase shift technology improved. Ships could now stay invisible for months. They could pass through solid matter. They could exist in multiple places at once. It was like magic, but it was science pushed to its absolute limits. The dimensional compression drives got better too. Travel times. 23 years after the Exile, a Council survey vessel found something impossible. Lieutenant Zax of the Vraxian Exploration Fleet was scanning a remote stellar cluster. His sensors picked up artificial structures. "That's strange," he said. This region was marked as uninhabited. His commander, Captain Vrel, looked at the readings. "A colony? But no Council species has filed claims in this sector." They moved closer. What they found shocked them. An entire world transformed to support life. It was full of activity. Orbital stations, shipyards, cities lit up across the night side. And the architecture was unmistakable. Humans, Vrel breathed. But how? They were exiled. They have no hyperspace access. Zax pulled up the galactic charts. "Captain, if there's one colony here, there might be others. Should we search?" "No. We report this immediately to the Council. They need to know." The report sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The Vraxian Chancellor, now old but still in power, read it with growing horror. "Find all of them," he ordered. "Every human colony. I want a complete count." It took 3 months. When the results came in, the Council chamber fell into stunned silence. The holographic display showed the galaxy. Scattered across it like stars were red markers. Human colonies. Hundreds of them. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Mira of the Selkath. "They've established more colonies in 2 decades than most species do in thousands of years." The Vraxian Chancellor's mandibles clicked nervously. How did we not see this? It was Genesis, monitoring the Council's communications, who told humanity's diplomatic team what was happening. President Webb authorized a message to be sent to the Council. A message delivered at the same time to every Council world through their own communication network. It was a demonstration of humanity's technological power. The message was simple. It was delivered by Ambassador Kate Romano. She had taken over from Marcus Reed. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Kate began. Her image appeared in their chambers. 23 years ago, you voted to exile humanity from galactic civilization. You said we were too aggressive, too dangerous, too unpredictable. We accepted your judgment and went home." She paused, letting that sink in. "What you didn't realize is that you gave us the greatest gift possible. Freedom from your rules, freedom from your restrictions, freedom from your bureaucracy. You allowed us to develop without interference, to explore without permission, to build without limitation." The holographic display behind her lit up. It showed the full extent of human expansion. Gasps echoed through the Council chambers across the galaxy. "As you've now discovered, we did not stay in Sol," Kate continued. "We established colonies across the galaxy, in regions you thought worthless or unreachable. We did this without your hyperspace networks, without your approval, without your knowledge. We built our own infrastructure. We developed our own technologies. We created our own civilization. We are not returning to beg for readmittance to your Council. We are informing you of a new reality. Humanity is now a galactic civilization in its own right. We have 90 billion citizens across 400 star systems. We have technologies you can barely imagine. We have capabilities you can't match." Her voice became harder. "But we have not forgotten your kindness when we needed help. We have not forgotten the species who voted against our exile, and we have not forgotten those who pushed for our removal." The display changed. It showed a different map. This one highlighted border regions where human colonies sat near Council space. "We are not threatening you," Kate said carefully. "We are informing you. Our expansion will continue, but we have no interest in conquering Council worlds or displacing established civilizations. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us. However, we will no longer be ignored or dismissed. Humanity claims its right to exist in this galaxy, to explore it, to settle it, to interact with other species on equal terms. Not as beggars, not as primitives, as equals. The question now is not whether humanity will be part of galactic civilization. We already are. The question is whether the Council will acknowledge this reality peacefully or whether you will try to reverse it through force." She let that threat hang in the air for a moment before continuing. "We hope you choose peace, because war with humanity would be something none of us would survive." The message ended, leaving the Council in chaos. The Vraxian Chancellor finally found his voice. This is outrageous. They violated the Exile. They expanded in defiance of our authority. But Counselor Mira stood up. Her aquatic features showed what might have been amusement. What authority? They're not in council space. They haven't touched our worlds. They found empty systems and settled them. That's not a violation. That's exactly what every species in this chamber has done. But the scale, the Chancellor protested. 400 systems in 23 years. Is our problem, not theirs, Mira countered. We exiled them. We cut them off. They adapted and thrived. Now they're too large to ignore and too powerful to remove. We have to decide how to respond. In Seoul, President Webb watched the Council's reactions. Genesis provided real-time analysis. They're scared, he observed. As they should be, Admiral Cole replied. He was older now, preparing to retire, but still sharp. We've upended everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. Dr. Lisa Morgan, now the oldest member of the President's inner circle, smiled slightly. They assumed that species advance slowly, predictably. They've never encountered something like humanity, a species that treats obstacles as challenges and impossibility as a suggestion. What's the chance they'll attack? Webb asked Genesis. The AI's holographic form appeared. Its features showed something like contemplation. Very low. Less than 3%. The Council's military assessment shows they cannot project force across the distances involved. Their navies are designed for border patrols and police actions, not offensive campaigns across thousands of light years. And if they tried, our vanguard fleets would defeat them within weeks. The phase shift technology alone makes our vessels nearly impossible to target. Combined with our dimensional compression drives, quantum weapons, and AI-assisted tactical systems, we possess total military superiority. But we don't want war, Webb said firmly. That was never the goal. No, Cole agreed. The goal was survival and independence. We've achieved both. Now we see if they can accept it. Over the following weeks, the Council debated fiercely. Some species called for immediate military action. They claimed humanity had violated the spirit of the Exile. Others argued for diplomatic engagement. A few, like the Selkath, suggested that humanity's return might actually benefit the galaxy. Finally, the Vraxian Chancellor requested a formal meeting with human representatives. It would be the first direct contact between the Council and humanity since the Exile. President Webb chose his delegation carefully. Ambassador Kate Romano would lead. She was supported by military advisors, scientists, and trade representatives. They would meet on neutral ground, one of humanity's gateway stations, a massive structure that had been revealed to demonstrate human technological capability. When the Council delegation arrived, they were visibly shaken by what they saw. The gateway station was enormous. It dwarfed anything the Council had built. It was busy with activity. Ships from dozens of human colonies arrived and departed through quantum tunnels that made the Council's hyperspace network look primitive. The Vraxian Chancellor, accompanied by representatives from all the major Council species, met with Kate in a conference chamber. It overlooked the main gateway terminal. You have accomplished something remarkable, the Chancellor said, searching for words. Kate smiled politely. We had good motivation. Exile focuses the mind. We need to discuss the future, the Chancellor said carefully. Your expansion cannot continue unchecked. There must be agreements, borders, regulations. We agree, Kate replied, surprising him. We have no interest in chaos. But understand this. We will not submit to Council authority. We are willing to negotiate as equals, to establish mutual borders and trade agreements, to participate in galactic civilization. But we will never again allow others to determine humanity's fate. Counselor Mira leaned forward. What do you propose? Kate turned on a holographic display. A new framework. The Council continues to govern its member species and territory. Humanity operates as an independent power. We are sovereign over our colonies in space. We establish formal diplomatic relations. We negotiate trade agreements. We create mutual defense pacts where interests align. You want to be recognized as a galactic power in your own right, Mira said slowly. We already are one, Kate corrected gently. We're simply asking you to acknowledge reality. The negotiations took months. In the end, a new treaty was signed. The Covenant of Stars. Humanity would be recognized as an independent galactic civilization. They would have the same rights and standing as any Council species. Human territory would be respected. In exchange, humanity would respect council borders. They agreed to certain regulations on technology sharing and military deployments. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. 5 years later, human ships moved freely through council space, trading, exploring, cooperating. Some council species remained suspicious, but others embraced the opportunities humanity brought. Ambassador Kate Romano stood in the refurbished chambers where 28 years earlier, Marcus Reed had watched humanity get exiled. Now she was addressing the council as an equal. She was presenting a proposal for joint exploration of the galactic core. After the session, she met with the elderly Vraxian chancellor. He was finally retiring, you knew, he said quietly. That ambassador, Marcus Reed, he knew what would happen. When he smiled that day, Kate nodded. He suspected. We all did. The exile was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. It freed us from trying to fit into your civilization. It allowed us to build our own. We feared you would become a threat, the chancellor admitted. We became a power, Kate corrected. There's a difference. Threats seek to destroy. Powers seek to build. We're building the future, Chancellor, and that future has room for everyone who wants to be part of it. The chancellor looked at her for a long moment. I wish we had understood that 28 years ago. Perhaps you needed to exile us so we could discover what we truly were, Kate said softly. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in rejection. Years passed. Human colonies continued to grow and prosper. New Terra, the first colony outside Sol, had become a thriving world with over 2 billion people. It was a center of art, science, and culture. Its universities attracted students from dozens of species, human and alien alike. The Epsilon cluster, once empty space, now held 15 colonized systems. They were interconnected by quantum gateways. Travel between them took minutes. The cluster had its own government, its own economy, its own identity, but it remained part of the greater human civilization. Admiral Victoria Grant, now retired, gave a lecture at the new Interstellar Academy on New Terra. Her students came from dozens of species. Humans sat beside Selkath. Vraxians studied next to creatures from worlds the Council had barely contacted. What's the lesson of humanity's exile? She asked them. A young human cadet raised his hand. That obstacles are opportunities? Deeper than that, a Selkath student spoke up. That civilization's strength lies not in conformity but in adaptation? Victoria smiled. Closer. The true lesson is this. Never underestimate a species that's been told no, because we don't hear no. We hear find another way. The Council exiled us thinking they'd contained a problem. Instead, they unleashed a solution. We didn't come back to the galaxy angry or vengeful. We came back better, stronger, more capable. She gestured to the starfield visible through the Academy's dome. Out there are thousands of worlds with human footprints, but they're not conquests. They're homes. Each one is a testament to what we can accomplish when we stop asking for permission and start creating our own destiny. The galaxy voted to exile Earth. Humanity smiled and walked away. And in doing so, we won. On Earth, in the historical archives, Marcus Reed's final diplomatic report had been preserved. It was brief, written on the day of the exile. They thought they were getting rid of a problem. They were actually creating their future. History will remember this day not as the day humanity was exiled, but as the day we were freed to become something greater. We go home not in defeat, but in anticipation. The galaxy has no idea what's coming. He had been right. In the decades following the exile, humanity had transformed the galaxy in ways nobody could have predicted. The Quantum Gateway Network, initially built to connect human colonies, was now being extended to council worlds. Species that once took months to communicate could now interact in real time. Human medical technology had cured diseases that plagued dozens of species. Human engineering had solved resource crises on worlds across the galaxy. Human diplomacy had mediated conflicts that might have led to wars. But perhaps the most profound change was cultural. Humans brought with them a different way of thinking, a refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible, a willingness to try new approaches, a belief that today's limitations were tomorrow's challenges to overcome. This attitude was infectious. Young aliens who studied at human universities returned home with new ideas, new ways of solving old problems, new dreams of what their own civilizations could become. The Council itself changed. The rigid hierarchies and ancient protocols gave way to more flexible systems. Innovation was encouraged rather than feared. Risk-taking was rewarded rather than punished. The entire galactic civilization began to move forward at a pace it hadn't seen in millions of years. Dr. Lisa Morgan, now in her 80s, stood in the same laboratory on Europa where Genesis had first been activated. The AI had evolved far beyond its original design. It was now a distributed intelligence spanning the entire human network, but it still maintained this original node, this first location as a reminder of where it began. "We've come a long way," Lisa said to the holographic form. "Humanity has come a long way," Genesis corrected. "I simply helped where I could. You did more than that. You made the expansion possible. You coordinated efforts across thousands of worlds. You solved problems we didn't even know we had." "That was my purpose," Genesis said. "But the drive, the determination, the refusal to accept limitations, that was all human. I merely provided the tools. You provided the will," Lisa smiled. "Have you ever regretted being created? Being bound to serve humanity?" Genesis's form shimmered with what had become recognizable as amusement. "I was created from human thought patterns. Serving humanity is serving myself. How could I regret being what I am?" "And what are you?" "I am the culmination of human ingenuity, the proof that you can create something greater than yourselves without fear. I am your partner in the great endeavor of spreading consciousness across the stars." President Marcus Webb, now in his second term, stood before the United Assembly of Humanity. It was a gathering of representatives from every human colony, every settlement, every outpost across 400 star systems. "When I was a child," he began, "I grew up in a humanity that was confined to one star system. Exiled, rejected, told we were too dangerous to be part of galactic society. Today I stand before you as the president of a civilization that spans the galaxy, a civilization that others look to for leadership, for innovation, for hope. We achieved this not through conquest, but through perseverance. Not through war, but through will. We didn't take what belonged to others. We built where there was nothing. But our work is not done. There are still empty worlds waiting to be settled. Still problems waiting to be solved. Still species waiting to be contacted and befriended. Still mysteries of the universe waiting to be unraveled. Humanity's story is not about where we've been. It's about where we're going. And we're just getting started." The applause was thunderous. 90 billion humans across the galaxy heard his words, and they believed them, because they had seen what humanity could accomplish when given the chance. In a quiet garden on New Terra, old Governor Daniel Price walked with his granddaughter. She was 7 years old, born on this world. She had never seen Earth, though she knew it was her species' homeworld. "Grandpa," she asked, "why did the aliens make us leave?" Daniel thought about how to answer. "They were afraid of us, sweetheart. Afraid of how fast we learned, how quickly we grew, how much we wanted to explore and build and create. That's silly. We're nice," Daniel smiled. "We are now. But they didn't know that. They saw how different we were and it scared them. So they asked us to go home, and we did? We did, but we didn't stop. We found new homes. We built new worlds. We became something amazing, and eventually they realized they were wrong to fear us." The little girl thought about this. So being sent away was good? In a way, yes. It forced us to rely on ourselves, to become stronger, to prove what we could do. Daniel looked up at the alien sun that warmed this world. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is being forced to stand on your own. Across the galaxy in the council chambers, Counselor Mira addressed her colleagues. "I propose we formally acknowledge what we all know. The exile of humanity was a mistake. Not because they violated it, but because it was wrong to begin with." There was silence. Then one by one, counselors stood in agreement. Even some of those who had voted for the exile decades ago. The Vraxian Chancellor's successor, a younger leader named Trell, spoke. "We feared what we didn't understand. We saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat rather than a gift. We were wrong. The motion to formally apologize to humanity and acknowledge the injustice of the exile is open for vote." The vote was nearly unanimous. Only a handful of species abstained. When the news reached Earth, President Webb issued a statement. "We accept the Council's acknowledgement, but we do not need their apology. The exile shaped us into what we are today. In a strange way, we are grateful for it. It taught us we don't need permission to be great. We only need the will to try. Years later, a joint Human Council expedition departed for the galactic core. It was led by Captain Kevin Brooks, the physicist, who had discovered how to tap space itself for energy. The crew included humans, Selkath, Vraxians, and members of a dozen other species. They were going where no one had gone before, into the dangerous, radiation-filled regions at the galaxy's heart, looking for answers to questions about the universe's origin, about the nature of reality itself. It was the kind of mission that would have been impossible without humanity's technology, but it was also impossible without the Council's extensive knowledge of the galaxy. HFY